Hey guys, I am back with Katara Sky. How are you doing today?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me.
So we found each other online, and obviously this podcast is called Tribe of Unicorns, and Kat felt a certain connection with the term unicorn. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do and why the words unicorn really resonated with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here in Sydney and I'm working as a healer, medicine woman, helping people on their personal journeys, on their transformational journeys to really know their true self. That's what I do. I love it. It's work, but it's not work. It's just a way of being. And I loved the word and the title of your show because unicorn was actually one of my first spirit animals, spirit guides that came in for me. So you might see this owl behind me. So owl's really present for me right now, amongst other animals. But unicorn's like my magical guide.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that leads me into the fairy realms, and I always know there's something a bit ethereal and working with clients if my unicorn guide comes in. So yeah, I was like, right, the show is magic. Let's do it.
I love that. And it's so funny how many of the people I've connected to in my life, we connect on that word. Um,
Mm.
so tell me, so I know you're a shaman. Do you want to explain exactly what that is and how you came to find that?
Yeah. I would prefer still to be called more a shamanic practitioner.
Okay.
Um, I feel because many of us are actually shamanic practitioners, it's living in a shamanic way.
Hmm.
I think I give more of the reverence shamans to maybe those who are born into it. Maybe yeah, I just feel more comfortable with shamanic practitioner.
Sure.
But that being said, I do believe that all of us have a shamanic nature, like how to connect to our true nature and all of nature around us, how to live in harmony with nature and deeply connected to our land, to our soul, to everything. And I guess in demystifying what shamanism is about, it's like really being able to see and acknowledge the spirit in all things and really working in those realms where you know that we're here in this, 3D reality, but that also there are other worlds, a non-ordinary world where we have spirit guides, where we have access to angels and fairies and the divine in whichever form that they decide to come in. So it's really walking in both worlds is kind of how we say, and using it in a way to really know and acknowledge our true self, and of course using it as a way to help people therapeutically so that they can be on their growth journeys, experience some magic, in every sense of that word. So that's what shamanism is to me, and
Okay.
really demystifying it because we can bring in ancient medicines because that's what shamanism is. It's very ancient. It's not a new age thing. It's very old age, but bringing that into a modern context, like how do we use that in our day to day? What does that look like? How does a shamanic session go? Like
Yeah.
when I first experienced it, it was going into the jungles, of Peru and staying there for 3 weeks. But now it's if we can't access that, does that mean we don't have access to shamanism? And that's the answer is no, we do, just in a different way. Shamanism, ancient medicine for modern times.
Right. How did you come to find this?
I actually found it because following the synchronicities, I met a friend from a yoga training, which then I saw again at another Qigong training. And I remember chatting with her and asking, hey, that thing that you do, when it feels like you're looking at something that's not quite there, or getting information that's not quite there. I'm like, what is it? What is it that you're doing? And then so she introduced me to, well, it's like seeing things in these other worlds, it's journeying, and really explaining a bit of shamanism. And I guess at that point, I just felt full body shivers and goosebumps. And it was my way of like, I don't even know what that is right now, but I need to do it. I need to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And from that beautiful connection with my friend, I think the 2, 3 days I stayed with her, I devoured, one or two books that was about it. I ended up signing up for a course, which meant I would come to Australia a couple months later. And here I am, and I just haven't left because that journey has just unfolded into so many other things. So I guess really following intuition,
Mhm.
following synchronicities that led me to this path because I was always meant to find it, even though I knew nothing about it before then.
I love that you followed your intuition and what I guess other people would say their gut on what you not even knowing what the end would bring you, but just knowing this was a direction you had to go in.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to develop where you can trust that and listen to that and you would hear it. I mean, so many people um I, I see kind of waking up to this idea of and I think a lot of people have always heard that term like trust your gut, like from when you're a kid, but this is a whole other level. Do you see that similar awakening and how do you guide someone who's just starting to feel like, oh, there's actually some truth to this and I'm starting to notice these things within myself? How do you guide them in those very beginning steps?
The first steps is understanding the language of intuition. So you pointed out a very good one, which is people have gut feelings, people have hunches about things.
Right.
But then what does a gut feeling actually mean? Is that a feeling in the body? Is that a voice in the head? Is that something that the body does, like a heart palpitation? Is it goosebumps? So, first introducing people to all the senses, all the ways that you can perceive intuition. That's like the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And once people kind of get introduced to or shown that these ways of how intuition speaks to you is how you individually receive information, then they can actually start noticing it more.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, over the years, I definitely know that goosebumps, especially when people are talking, is my way of, okay, that's truth, you know?
I feel it here. I get like this
Yeah.
almost like anxiety, but I
Mm,
it's not. It just is like this heavy, bubbly kind of weird feeling of
yeah.
something,
Exactly. So you first we need to know all the different ways, right? Like if you don't know, then how can you identify it? And
right?
then second, okay, now that I know, well, when have I noticed that before? So you might start a little backtracking and realizing, oh, I see. Well, I acted upon it and it was great. Oh, I didn't act upon it. That wasn't a good result. So a
Right.
little bit of reflection process. And then it becomes about developing that. Okay, so let's begin with a question, something that you're looking to get more guidance on, and let's practice. So it's not waiting for intuition to come to you. Rather, let's actually activate this two-way conversation with whatever you think is on the other side, whether it's your higher self and spirit or source or the universe. Activating this two-way conversation so that you can ask something, receive an answer, interpret what that answer actually means, and get better and better at it. So that once you trust yourself, when you start asking on small things, you can ask bigger and bigger questions and then really come to trust the decisions that you make and come back to this place of living guided and in a way where you always feel in alignment what you're guided to do.
How do you know that it's your higher self or that you're being guided, or is it ego? How do you decipher the two?
Yes, I would say it is, it can be tricky. It can be tricky. And in the beginning, when I used to hear my inner voice, and in many ways, right? Like, but one of them literally is a voice in my head. And I remember asking people, does that voice sound like you? Is that voice actually sound like another voice? Because I was hearing my voice, but not knowing, is am I just making it up? Am
Right.
I just
Right.
making it up? So now when I want to ask something, when I'm getting information, I really notice like, okay, am I asking from a place where I'm centered? Am I calm, balanced? Am I feeling some neutrality as I'm seeking this answer, right? Grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then really feeling again like, am I feeling expansive in it? Am I feeling a constriction or a control of this answer is coming from something else, so it's not quite me?
Right.
Or am I making these or is the information coming to me at a time where I'm agitated? Like if I'm angry at something and trying to tune in and get answers, I know that that answer might not come from a place of purity and highest vibration because I'm still in the charge. I'm still in the charge of the moment.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's when I might enlist the help of, my husband or my friend and saying like, "Hey, can you just double check?" So I'll have a good sense of what the information is, but I'll always have it looked at because I already recognize that I'm not in a place of neutrality and peace. I'm still in that charged moment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. No, totally. So how
Yeah.
do you get grounded? I mean, what are when you're ready to start channeling or receiving information, what's your routine like?
Ritual is always great, even if it doesn't have to be a huge fanfare, but I think ritual is an intention with the universe, with source that, hey, I'm about to really intend to connect with purity or with source. So when I'm working on a session, that might look like the same kind of things I do. I smudge the place, I prepare my tea, I set my altar, whatever it is that I need to do, because that's all my physical signaling that I'm grounding now. I'm coming into full presence into this session. If I'm just tuning into myself, it can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, really feeling like I'm home, in the body, and then doing some exercises where I'm literally intending to connect to infinite source, whether that's in visualization or in feeling.
Mhm.
And then once I feel that connection and things shifting, it's like everything else kind of disappears, and then that clarity is there when that information comes. So it can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths, I guess with practice, maybe ritual just becomes easier and easier and simpler and simpler.
You talked about spirit guides, higher self. What has been your experience as far as noticing where that's coming from? Who, like, is it a mind's eye type of thing, or is it you recognize the different voices, or how does that work for you?
My journey with learning about spirit guides and my animal guides, I would say, has been challenging because one of my senses of receiving information, sight wasn't always there. Inner sight wasn't always there. For me, the sense was actually inner knowing, when you know something.
Yeah.
But imagine, like, how do you even begin to trust yourself when it's I know something? Like, who knows? How can anyone verify that?
Right.
And so at the beginning of my of training, I like, for example, I always knew that Phoenix is my birth guide, is one of my totem animals, if you want to call it that. I've had a tattoo of a phoenix on me for since I was, I don't know, 18 or something. Now, like, years and years and years later, I would then actually experience the energy of phoenix coming in.
Wow.
People actually seeing my phoenix, and I was like, "Oh my God, thank goodness." Like, I knew it, right? But because I didn't have the level of awareness and perception that that was a thing.
Yeah.
And so, like owl, somebody else retrieved owl spirit for me, and then it was over a period of time before I recognized how does owl work through me? How does it
Mhm.
present? It was actually learning about it. So I don't always see them, and that's the challenging thing of working with the inner senses as well. It's how do you become so trusting of one of them and still know it, like still really, really believe it. So I
Yeah.
don't always see them, but now I think I get glimpses of them. I can see other people's animals sometimes, and
Yeah.
again, it's still knowing. So it's not an easy question, and that's why knowing your sense is important, not just to be able to perceive our spirit guides, but to really know how information and energy is experienced through you.
Um, I've always felt that both eagles and hawks have been like my almost like a good luck charm. I'll go and I'll meet with a new client or something will happen in my life and I see a hawk and it's the my husband and I were we were doing a bike ride and I was like I cannot believe I haven't seen a hawk yet. And I turned the corner and almost fell off my bike in the middle of the pathway was a red hawk red tail hawk feather. And I was like, oh, there you are. Thank you. But it was like that
Yeah.
instantaneous too, where I said it and it was like there. So wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love all this stuff. It has enhanced my life so much. And there's just such a feeling of I guess calm and peace, feeling supported, feeling guided, kind of knowing that there's another realm, another level of an afterlife, if you will. Just having that idea that we continue on and we can all still energetically connect has been game changing for
Mm,
me and my life. Have you experienced the same type of calm and peace after getting to open up to this kind of thing?
definitely. It's that, it's calm, it's peace. It's also understanding.
Mhm.
Understanding, our role in the context of Kat in this lifetime, Kat in the big picture. Who am I, in this grand scheme, in this masterful plan, and having this reverence for spirit, the universe, on, oh my goodness, what a learning experience, what a growth journey,
Yeah.
and you call upon these guides that are all parts of you anyway, that are within you, but aspects of you, because you are always supported.
Yeah.
And if you look at, especially these times now when things can be really difficult, to really know that, well, number one, you're never alone. You're not alone in the people, and there's going to bound to be a whole tribe out there that's feeling how you feel. But distance and many aspects of that word has, kept people apart. But what if you had that connection to a greater sense of knowing, like your whole divine team that's behind you? Imagine if you knew, if people understood that you're never alone. You have anyone, everyone that's coming to give you the sign that you need to see. The hawk feather,
Yeah.
the knowing that, oh my God, you could see my phoenix. It's like the aha moment of, this is true.
Yeah.
So it's amazing comfort and understanding that everything is for a reason, and that saying is not just an expression of things happen for a reason. Things really do happen for a reason. It's, can we accept, what those reasons can be?
And what do you think that overreaching reason is? Is it to help people find their path, their goal, or their soul's purpose? I know you talk about that. Your soul's purpose is doing the work you're doing right now. Where do you think that's sort of like the purpose of us being here, is to figure that out and then give that back to the world? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess if we're all a piece of the puzzle, then we all have a purpose in that puzzle. And in our incarnation and in this, being, it is our personal journey, our soul journey, to actually uncover what it is. And whether you perceive it as a way of giving back to the world, or maybe as a way of receiving in the world, it is being that unique vibration, being that unique frequency, just doing your thing,
Yeah.
whatever your thing is. And if it is being a healer, and if it is anything, being a teacher, just being, finding, for everyone to find their level of peace, their level of, their place in the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, I think that we are here to reach that peace state.
I think so many people are looking for that and are unsure of how to get it, and find clarity on that, because we have so much noise and so much going on around us. So to be able to tap into your intuition and hone that skill so you can learn how to trust that, you'd say start with training with someone, or even just doing, beginning things on your own. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I think choosing to explore it deeper is definitely the step to go, and different people will want different things. Like, I have tons of books. I have books on how to access intuition, psychic abilities 101. Like, I started with books, and then pretty soon after that, books just didn't work for me. So
Mhm.
I had to go to in-person trainings and really learn from people, and just navigating through that myself to actually know, well, how do I learn? And so it's a trial period. It's
Mhm.
practicing, receiving information. Did I trust that? Was that good for me? Did it work? discussions with friends. Like we're always learning together. So I definitely recommend to connecting with other people who are on the journey with you so
Yeah.
that you can grow together and learn together. So I think really just choosing that you want to do it and then exploring, well, maybe I need to find an intuition teacher. Maybe
Right.
I need to read another book, maybe watch some documentaries. Like there's so many avenues, and to really respect each of our uniqueness as well, to recognize that our learning styles are different. And so, how we want to learn, who we want to learn from, there's a million ways that you can learn it. And to really trust the way that resonates with you and keep exploring until you find the teacher, the guide, the book, the documentary that's going to help you make that breakthrough.
Yeah. What do you, so many people will do things with an end in mind. You know, I love doing things just for the joy of it and for the fun of it. Where when someone wants to start walking down this path, and it's not to necessarily become a teacher or, use this in any sort of business way or way that they're going to like change their career. Um, they're just looking for some better connection to themselves and to use it in their general life. um where do you where's your head at with that sort of thing? Like, because I feel like a lot of people, when I was starting to go down this road myself, well, why, what are you going to get out of it? Is that, or is something you're going to make money doing? And I got a lot of weird feedback like that, where I just
Mm,
thought this is something I just want to know more about. And I think it sounds really
yeah,
interesting and cool. So could you speak a little on that? Did you
yeah.
have that experience too, where people were sort of,
Definitely.
okay,
Definitely. First of all, I think it's our human, innate nature to be curious. And it is following that curiosity to explore things and to grow in that way. So I also, when I was learning these things, I had no idea what I would do with it. I always went on teacher trainings and things just, that's just how I was. I
right,
was like, well, I might as well get the last thing
right,
because I
right.
might as well. But I never for a moment thought that I would actually transition to be a healer and to be using it in my toolbox in this way. And I'm grateful now that I've decided that because, I have those tools and things. But I think for that simple purpose of exploring and the simple purpose of having this tool as a way to guide you in your day to day, that is the reason that you do it. It's
Yeah,
having intuition so that it guides you in your everyday decisions, not just the big ones, of do I move continents? Should I take this job? Do I sign this business deal? Are those not everyday things? Do I trust this person? Is he good for me? Do I want to take this medication? And really trusting that information that comes in. Those are everyday activities.
yeah,
Should I go to this party? What's this person's intention towards me? Those are all questions that you can ask and be totally guided by developing this sense of intuition. So, absolutely, it's for our everyday, and that it's normal for people to not understand, not know your why, and having that courage to be in your own why of why you do something. And if they think something about it, I mean, that's their thing.
right,
When I transitioned from corporate into this life, I'm sure I had a lot of raised eyebrows of,
right,
what do you
right.
mean you're leaving your good job? Like my father definitely could not understand. Oh, you don't have a steady job yet. I'm really worried for you.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, I know, I understand. I understand the, thinking that he's coming from, but it's okay.
yeah. I love that.
Can I
Yeah.
just pause for a
Sure,
moment? You're
sure.
going to edit this recording because someone's just
Absolutely.
standing at my door for the last 10
Oh,
minutes and I just want to see what he actually wants.
that's
Sorry.
fine. No, it's fine.
he wants to check a leak. I'm like, all right, you're just gonna have to wait.
I only have,
Sorry for
I think just really two more questions.
yeah,
I was
just
trying not to like look because they're down on my screen, but I'm now reviewing them. There's two more. Um,
sounds good.
I mean, I have a million, but like I love. I mean, one of the biggest things is I find, and maybe it's just my inexperience with reaching out, but a community where you can talk about these types of things where it feels like well received, and there's people in there that have enough experience that they're not all over the place, um,
Yeah.
where you can sort of just bounce things off of each other. And I'm finding it organically, but is there a space that you've found really helpful as far as, it's not a book club, it's
I know. You know, I've actually never been able to find one. And therefore, two of my sisters and I actually created one online. So we've actually just launched it and it's on Discord. I'm not sure if you
oh
know
yeah,
it.
I
Yeah, I feel like it's much more easy to facilitate communication. You know, you can have different categories, and the overall intention is really awakening Earth Keepers because we're all here to work and live with Gaia and Mother Earth, and awakening our light within because that's the essence of who we are, and really trying to keep it as a self-moderated but an opportunity for people to ask real questions because
yeah,
in my experience, and maybe I don't know if you felt that as well, sometimes Facebook groups are just not really kind. You
no,
know, like I have seen some really big, like big communities, shamanic, whatever, 60,000 people. And I see some of the comments and someone genuinely asking something and very dogmatic answers. Oh, you should do this and you should do this. And who do you think you are? And it's like, they just have genuine questions. They're all trying to learn.
right,
And I felt that I just never actually resonated. And I'm very, very thankful that I had my sisters where we were on this journey together, learning about ourselves, learning about our craft. And because we had each other to really bounce ideas to practice, I've grown so much.
yeah,
And so now we come together. There's three of us, and because I know their medicine, I know where we've studied, I know our journey, I know that we are connected. And so it's not to say that I don't trust anyone else. It's just, look, we want to hold this container. We want people to come in a certain way. We want to send that energy and intention out. And later, if that grows and we have more of us and that we feel, can hold the space, we welcome them. But intention is to create meaningful discussion, meaningful question and guidance so that
right,
people can learn.
yeah,
Like we talked about, how do you know it's owl? How do you know it's phoenix?
yeah.
Like really allowing people to ask silly questions because there are no silly questions. Like that's how we learn. So that's our intention. And I'd love you to share that with your tribe as well, because that's
Yeah.
exactly it. We want people to come in and ask and be guided.
I think that's a thing that I've seen a lot of is that people don't want to join those big groups because they ask things and kind of feel, talked down to. And,
Yeah,
you know, like I think I've seen where people just get to a certain point where they feel like, well, they know way more than any of these
exactly.
newbies and their energy is too wild and this and that. And I can't be bothered anymore. And,
Yep.
it's hard to like wiggle into a space that you're trying to really learn about and understand when they're like, no, we don't want to sit with you. So,
Absolutely. I agree. And I felt that marginalized, judged,
yeah.
who am I to come in and ask that question? What's
Yeah.
allowed, what's not allowed?
And there's so many different avenues, like just very organically, I've started to meet people in real life that are in this space, but in so many different ways. I have friends that are like just obsessed with crystals and crystal magic and, wear different and prescribe crystals to me. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's real. But I know nothing about crystals or astrology. I'm fascinated by all of it. But there's
Hmm.
just so many, avenues that you can kind of walk down. And
Yes.
it's a lot.
It is, and just that every one of us carry something different. Your
It's
crystal
so
friends,
cool.
that's their medicine. And you will have yours, and I will have mine, and we can all come together and understand. Oh, please share with me what crystal should I
Yeah.
use, and somebody else shares something else. Like that's real tribe. If you go
Yeah.
back in time, we all have different roles, and that's it, whether in this real life thing or on a bigger scale, right? That puzzle piece, we're all contributing to it in some way.
Do you think this is a common thread that goes through all of your lives? Like, do you think it's something that kind of you continuously come to each iteration of yourself?
I think on a soul level, yes. Like, my personal feeling is that we kind of have an overarching mission.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say my mission is I'm here to spread love and light. And it sounds very broad, and because it is quite broad. But then at a soul level, I'm reincarnating, and maybe the first life it's about losing love. The second life it's about, I don't know, some other kind of heartache. And my third life, so it's all about love and light, but conquering, exploring, understanding different facets of
Yeah.
what is love and light. And so I do feel like we have an overarching mission, but the purpose in each life, like maybe like for myself, in this life of sharing light and love, my one of my biggest trials and tribulations is really owning I am enough. I
Mm,
am enough to do this work. I am enough as I am, even if I haven't studied decades of it. Because actually, the truth is, I've studied lifetimes of it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do think we have an overarching kind of mission,
Hmm.
and so you refine your craft every life in
Yeah.
different ways. I might not be a shamanic healer. Maybe I'm a, I don't know, I don't know, your local bread maker that's
Right.
sharing love in that way. Like, not to be attached that people need to come in the form of teacher, healer, anything. It's just in this life, I'm doing this,
Yeah.
but the mission is the same.
Mm.
That's my own
No, I
interpretation.
love that. And these are the kind of questions that like I would love to just kind of marinate on with people because, how do I ask that to someone who like doesn't live in this space at all ever? And my husband is so beautiful and sweet and he's so open-minded, but like we don't have these conversations because he's like, lifetimes? What do you mean?
Oh my goodness. Like, my husband, I said, oh yeah, we've been together, whatever, a year, but we've known each other 5 lifetimes.
Yeah.
And even though same, he's a medicine man in himself, he's a Chinese medicine practitioner, but there are definitely days when I'm like, oh babe, I was off in this world and then
Yeah.
this happened, and that happened.
100%.
And I see him with his face like, uh-huh, like full love and acceptance, but he
I know, I
doesn't
know.
quite get it.
I know. I
And I'm
know.
like, I'm crazy, huh? And he's like, no, I love you because of it, but he still
Right.
doesn't quite get it?
Yes. There's acceptance and wonder and awe, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
have those all.
I I am somewhat psychic. I'm on this journey a couple of years and still trying to figure it out and trust it and whatever, but there's so many times where I'll tell him like, "Oh my gosh." And then, my this the my I was recently my son was confirmed and it always seems to be for whatever reason stepping into a Catholic church and I don't know it's not even when it's just silent but it just happens there and I felt all of our relatives standing there and like my grandfather and my uncles and they were all saying these different and I'm sitting there and my husband's looking at me like what is going on and I'm just like crying and laughing and, and I told him afterwards and he was like okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you do that, hon.
Yeah. But it's such a real experience. And it's so hard to find people that you can talk to about it because if they don't if they haven't experienced that, like, connection with another dimension side or whatever, it's really hard for them to grasp. So I get that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Finding my tribe. That's what this is all about.
Exactly.
What has been your biggest revelation?
I think the biggest revelation is these other worlds.
Hmm.
This lifetime, I feel is I'm only beginning to blossom into this. This I still see as I am new. I am new to this in this lifetime. And so the biggest aha moment and pivot is seeing this. Now I'm seeing the time. It's almost 11:11. That's
Oh,
very divine. 11's my number. It's exactly that. It's seeing the sacredness and the divine in everything. That understanding of we're all connected, where oneness is not a cliche quote and it
right.
is a thing because I can experience it. You had a direct experience of the ancestors being there. No one can take that away from you, even if they can't see it.
Yeah.
And so that's what shamanism and this path has brought to me: direct revelation, direct experience from source, universe, spirit, whatever. So that you cannot take that away from me.
Yeah.
This information is coming in through me, and if you don't like it, you can go the other way. If you like it, great, let's have a conversation. It's that aha moment of we are always between the worlds.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then that opens my curiosity, and I'm going to follow it and go down, all the rabbit holes and all the portals because it's fascinating.
it
It's
really
fascinating.
is. How
Yeah.
can people connect with you? And I know do you have courses? What do you offer?
Yeah, you can find me on katarasky.com, and on my Instagram, I am Katara Sky. I work with people either one on one or in courses. So, right now, I have one launching in March during the equinox called Journey to Truth.
Mm,
And really, it's a little bit of these wisdom teachings, a little bit of coming together in circle where we actually move through energy together. So, doing a bit of the healing work. And I work with other co teachers, sharing the space, all teaching our medicine in a collaborative way because we're not meant to do it all on our own. So, I love having my co teachers and having space and really to all facilitate that journey of truth and transformation so that you can know what's your truth. So, yeah, please find me there. Find your power sense. You said you're psychic, I have knowing as well. And just understanding what all this language means and live more in trust and flow in life.
yeah. Thank you so, so much for being on the show. It was such an absolute pleasure to meet you and to have this conversation. And hopefully we can have another one in the future too.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.